Welcome to the Founderz Lounge, where business meets bullshit and everything in between. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Founderz Lounge. Our guest today, I've said this before, we have a very large handful, which we're fortunate enough to have what I would call kind of serial entrepreneurs, if you will, meaning they are part of a large part of our organization. Their portfolios are divested. They're involved in other things. The guy chugging the freaking energy drink on the screen is definitely...
It's just water.
Just water?
Yeah.
You selling those now, too?
Yep.
You get a commission?
The guy we're about to talk to today definitely fits that bill. I'm grateful to have him in our organization and have him on the show today. Chase Whitehead, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great.
What's up,
no
Chase?
complaints from me. How you doing, Skippy?
Oh, here we go. Let's get it out of the way with now. I've developed a nickname with these guys. I'm doing well.
I was hoping you remember. That's honestly.
I remember. It came from me skipping a bullet off the ground because I couldn't hit a target. I know exactly what you're referring to. I thought I was going to outlive that, but that's another story, another day, man.
Forever in my phone.
Yeah. Well, man, thank you again for joining the show today. I appreciate it. I want to get into, we don't have to hear where you went to high school and all of that. What I want to focus on, because I think it's a compelling story, you've told me a million times, so I know it, but I want to share it, is kind of a little bit of background into your entrepreneurial journey, like how you got into franchising, what drew you to it, and then kind of like the path from, OT into Clean Eats and kind of, I'll call it an empire because that's what it is. I mean, you got 6 Orangetheories and you're part of 4 Clean Eats now. So kind of start, how did you get into franchising? What drew you to it?
Yeah, so just quick background. I'm an engineer by degree. My wife was a teacher. At the time, we were engaged, and actually it was her. I always wanted to do my own thing. I thought I was going to I honestly thought I was going to invent something and get behind a product and sell it. And that's still a goal of mine, but we were engaged. She went to visit a friend who happened to be a founding member at Orangetheory Fitness in Louisville. And walking in, her friend said, "You should talk to Chase about opening one of these," because she knew I wanted to open my own business. And she's thinking in her head, yeah, right. Like, we're not going to get into this Orangetheory, this gym thing. And she walked out and called me immediately because she was just blown away by what they were doing. And I had the same thought. I was like, I'm not doing gyms. Like, I go to the gym. I'm an avid, health and fitness person, have been since high school. But I go to the gym, I lift weights, right? I'm not going to do a studio, a boutique gym, right? But I'm open-minded. I was like, I'll go try one. So went down to Louisville, tried a class, and absolutely just blew me away. So, did my due diligence. I was calling around, and all the stories added up. No matter if I was talking to South Florida, Columbus, Louisville, out west, the story was consistent about Orangetheory. And that's when we were like, you know what? Let's try. We were still engaged. We were 3 and 24, I think, and figured, let's see what we can do. And we had to figure out a way to get that initial investment, which we worked around and were able to do, but just jumped in. And then, fast forward a little bit, went to training. We ended up buying our second license before we opened our first studio with Orangetheory, just because they had, their corporate team. I met the founders. It was amazing. And fast forward again, we get to the point where we have 3 studios open, doing well with Orangetheory. This is back in 2019. And one of my employees is my now business partner's sister. And she had just mentioned, hey, my brother would love to talk to you about, franchising. And I was like, sure, let's do it. So, long story short, we ended up with Clean Eats, and we ended up becoming partners. That wasn't the original intention of the conversation, but he listed off 4 things, and Clean Eats was actually at the bottom, being a restaurant. A lot of people, which I was too, hesitant about getting into the restaurant industry. And as soon as he said it, though, I was like, man, that sounds like something that's it's going to be a category that's not really out there yet. And especially the way we do it at Clean Eats is so different from any other competition out there. But I coach classes at Orangetheory. I still do. I coached 4 this morning, started at 5. And still this morning, I'm getting questions about nutrition, right? And that's always my biggest thing. I tell everybody, don't come in here and kill yourself in the workout and then leave and, just expect results. We got to do the work outside of here. And the biggest thing you can do, nutrition. So anyway, long story short, we drove down, met you guys. And as soon as I met you, both of you, honestly, and you and Yvonne in particular, I was like, okay, if you guys are leading the ship, I'm all in. And, we drove home from that. We drove down from Cincinnati to Wilmington. And that's really where Brandon and I got to know each other better. We knew each other, but not that well. So we were like, all right, if we're going to do this, we got to spend some time together, get to know each other. So yeah, we jumped all in with Orangetheory. That led us to Clean Eatz, and this empire that we're trying to build is awesome because of what we do. They're interconnected in health and fitness, and our goal is to make Cincinnati the healthiest city in the country.
Nice. You said something that is it's not wild to me, because those of you guys that know Yvonne and I's story, it's when people hear it, they're like, you did what? But you just said something similar. So for context, you partnered with a guy that you went to college with. You agreed to come down and at least investigate, I'll call it, or do due diligence to become business partners with somebody that you barely knew. That is wild to me. And it's kind of, when most people hear it, it's almost incomprehensible. They don't understand it.
The car ride alone.
Yeah.
Let alone getting into a business marriage.
I'm driving down with, who am I sharing a hotel with? Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, but Brandon and I knew each other from our fraternity. We were in the same fraternity. We didn't overlap. He was there before me, but I knew him because he stayed involved with the fraternity, heavily involved. So I knew him, but yeah, it was very much, a couple of those franchisee calls we were hopping on. We met, we talked, but it was that ride now where it was like, all right, we got to figure out, can we work together, and do we have the same end goal in mind? And actually, where I thought you were going was with Stephanie, because we got into it when we were just engaged. We started dating out of college, and we were engaged, right? When we signed the Orangetheory thing, we're like, you're quitting your job. She quit her teaching job to run the first studio. We're engaged. Hopefully this all works out, but as it has, it's been a crazy ride in both of those businesses. Wouldn't change it for the world, though.
I love it. So I want to, we'll get into Orangetheory, but I'm biased, so I want to talk about the Clean Eatz stuff first.
Yeah.
What do you think? Has there been anything that has kind of changed your approach to running a business? Good, bad, or indifferent? I mean, don't be afraid to share it if it's bad. That's kind of changed your approach to running a small business.
Since getting with Clean Eatz, it's a very different model than I'm used to. Cost of goods isn't so much a thing I have to deal with at Orangetheory, right? So with Clean Eatz, and let's be honest here, I'm not the one in there daily operating. When we opened, I was very much there. The first 3 months I was in daily and checking in and helping out and scheduling and different things like that. But I'm very much removed from that. Brandon and I talk every week and several days a week usually, but it's me almost consulting with him, being a sounding board. The biggest thing I would say, though, is just, and I knew this a little bit going from one studio quickly to 2 with Orangetheory. I did this, but as we grew there, I lost this. But I learned this from you and Yvonne, and it's just the intentionality behind the people, right? And that's the biggest thing where we have struggled truthfully recently, and we're just getting this good point with Clean Eatz where we have a team. And listening to Casey talk the other day, actually, he was talking about how long it took him to get this team, right? He has a great team now, and we've gone through the same thing. And as far as running the small business, we buy a franchise for a reason. We have a playbook, so we have the things we need to do there. The thing that I think, one of the things that differentiates is how do you treat the team, and how do you build the team, and how do you develop and pour into your people. And that is just, again, from you and Yvonne, that blew my mind. And that's one of the reasons I'm here today. And I signed up, back in 2019.
I'll give you that 20.
Yeah, really. Give me a break.
Well, one of the things that, and I do this, any good leader should do this, and I think it's common in the franchise industry. I don't think it's as common anymore, at least not that I have been seeing recently. But some of our best ideas, some of the best things that we've implemented have not been our ideas.
Yeah.
And I think what I've started to see from the people that I talk to kind of on a regular basis, it's my number one piece of advice. And I had to learn it the hard way because it took me a long time to learn it. I was a stubborn prick in the beginning. You know, I was like, hey, this is our model. You either follow it. It's black and white. It's a box. I was very rigid on this.
Yeah.
And then as we started to grow and develop and getting, I'll call them like more emotional, intelligent owners in the system, they kind of knew what they were doing. Guys like you, especially, who have been in other brands and could bring different things to the table. You kind of have to learn, like, hey man, you kind of need to listen a little bit. Shut your mouth and listen, and you might pick something up that would change the course of the way that you do your business. Did you ever see anything like that in Orangetheory early on? Like, are they really good about? I'm not trying to air their laundry out. I'm just curious, like, do they have that relationship with their owners where they're allowed to, like, kind of voice their opinion, so to speak, but bring things to the table, ideas and concepts and things like that?
Yeah. So when I got into Orangetheory, there were 200 studios open, right? And now there's 1,500. It blew up, right? So it was very early on, but at the time, again, I was 24, didn't really know what I was doing. So honestly, I was trying to figure out the business for myself, that I didn't actually get out there enough to network and talk and give feedback. It was just like, teach me, right? So early on, I don't really recall, how much feedback they would take. I will say they've had a strong FAC for, since I got into it. And those people absolutely were helping drive the ship. However, it was to this point where those people were the OGs. They've been around. They were good friends with the founders, or became good friends after they became franchisees. And what I saw shift post COVID, though, is now they are more like what you're talking about, how you are. And, we have ideas, we bring them up, we test them out. With Orangetheory, I know the founders, and I would say probably two of them would know my name just by looking at me. One could pick me out of the lineup, but wouldn't necessarily see me on the street and know me. And that's one of the biggest differences. But I think it's a part of the scale of the size of the business too, obviously. But yeah, I think being able to take those ideas and then figure out, how do we make this work on a large scale? Because, when you're talking about this, maybe something you were doing in Wilmington works perfectly in Wilmington, but for whatever reason, it doesn't work in California. Well, no, we're not in California, in Florida, or, somewhere else. And you got to listen to those ideas. And I think even from the beginning, I didn't want to come in, and I kind of did this a little bit, but I didn't want to come in and be like, hey, let's do it this, let's try this, let's do this. Because, like I said, we're buying a playbook and it works. So for the most part, I'm going to do that. But hey, here's some other ideas. And one of the first ideas that I did bring to the table was controversial, but we did it. It worked really well the first two stores that we did. The last one, not so much, and we'll see on the third or on the fourth. But I think that's a key to being successful, though, is listening to what the people who are operating, because you're not in a cafe operating a cafe anymore, right? You're worried about the bigger picture, and there's things that change, and times change. And if the mission stays the same, the goal stays the same, and we're headed in that direction, I think you do need to change with what the customer wants, or some operational thing that happens. We have to be adaptable, and I think you guys are.
I'm just gonna air out what your controversial thing was.
I kind of want to know, but yeah.
Well, I mean, he's joking and saying it was controversial. I'll admit it was at the time, because it was just so new. It was just this abstract idea that, I'm just going to be honest, I don't think anybody in our office could wrap their head around. To be honest,
what are you referencing?
It was pre-sales.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah, I remember that.
Orangetheory is really big on that, right? They when they open a new location, they pre-sale memberships and that sort of thing. And I think the rub was, quite frankly, we couldn't wrap our head around how do we implement that, because of the way that our meal plans work. We're not a subscription based. And I think that was like, you couldn't get that fog out of your head. And then we were like, okay, try it. You know what I mean? Like, if it works, it works. If it don't, then, you know, it didn't work. And it worked really well for them. And they've done it in every location. And I'm not going to say that we've adapted the whole concept of what they were doing. Do I think we need to work on it further? Absolutely. I think there's something there. But what it did was it sparked this like kind of concept to say, hey, you know what? What we've never done that came out of the pre-sale thing was we've never required a certain amount of like customer emails that we think our owners should go get, sort of like a pre-marketing type of campaign or tactic. We were never doing that before these guys came around and was introduced us to that pre-sale. And so that's kind of where we're at now, is we have them, they have to go out and get a certain amount of emails before we'll let them open.
That's part of the launch
because of the, you know, the conversion rates and everything. So it's just one example of many that we've gotten ideas from other owners and changing up our approach to how we operate.
Yeah. I mean, I think too, to your point, Chase, like, and Dawn, yours as well, regardless of this, a Clean Eatz or another brand. I mean, the idea that the system teaches the brands is something that, like, I'm on the marketing and branding side. That's scary for people in the teams or the agencies working, because they think, well, why didn't I come up with that idea? But if you really sit back and are mature about it, you say, well, why would I have come up with that idea? I'm not in the ring fighting the guy, or I'm not on the field. Like, QBs will go back to the coaches and say, hey, man, they're leaving this side open. What if we did this? And then the coaches will make the play. So getting confident without opening Pandora's box to hear what your system's telling you and deciding if it can be scalable for the collective and beneficial. But it's a good lesson.
And I think it's important to remember, you know, you can get into this place. I imagine I've never actually, I mean, I've gone through times where I've maybe felt like this a little bit, but you get to a point where sometimes it feels like it's franchisees versus the franchisor, right? And that's never what you want. And I think from both sides, you got to look at it and say, listen, if you win, I win, right? And like, I'm bringing this idea because I think it's going to help, you know, for pre-sales. I think it's going to help people start making money right away or sooner, right? So that was the whole goal and the whole concern. One of the concerns outside of what you're saying, it was definitely more complicated, or it is more complicated with Clean Eatz than it was for Orangetheory, because you're signing up for a membership that will start when we open. And you're just locking in a rate there. For Clean Eatz, you know, what are you signing up for? There isn't a membership. So, you know, we were pre-selling some meals, and that worked out well for us. But, you know, when we're looking at it, it's just like, we're trying to make this better for everybody. And if I come out of the gate and I'm making money, I'm way happier than if I'm trying to struggle and scrap and try to save every penny and worry about spending money on marketing and different things. So, you know, you guys there was that push to like, how do we figure this out? And then it got to the point, well, absolutely try it. And I think that is something that both Orangetheory and Clean Eatz does pretty well, is if we have an idea that has some legs to it, let's test it out. Because you can't just roll it out across the board without figuring out, is it really a good idea, or does it just sound good in theory?
What do you think is, now I'm going to kind of open the curtain a little bit, and you can share whatever. I don't really mind, but what do you think has been some of the biggest challenges on the Clean Eatz side from a multi-unit owner perspective that we're kind of facing, or that you guys are struggling with now, that you would like to see change, or like, you know, kind of improve?
Yeah, I think in general, before getting into even multi-unit, would be there's a lot of different pieces that, like, you have to go to so many different places to do different things, right? It's not all centralized for ordering, marketing, all the stuff. You have to go to all these different places. And that's one of the things Brandon and I talk about all the time, is he's just like, it's so complex with all these different areas. So I think that's something you're working towards, and you got to test out different products for whatever it is and see what works. And I know, you know, unfortunately, you've tried things that ended up not being the right solution, and you got to pivot. But that's one struggle, and that I have seen. The multi-unit, I just think there's probably some efficiencies that could be figured out, to where I don't have 4 people doing the same job, or we don't have 4 teams doing the same thing. I know we've talked about that. Casey has talked about, can I centralize making all the meals, but then I got to get the meals to each location. Does that work? Is it too complicated? I think there's something there. I just don't know, what the answer is, to be honest. But I think that's something that as you grow, like, if we can find efficiencies by adding more locations and get more profitable per location, that's going to continue to fuel people wanting to open another one. And I think it's hard to do because it's a real product, so you got to be able to get that product where it needs to be. But I think there is a solution out there.
Yeah, I would agree. Somebody asked me that the other day, and my answer was kind of a little bit more complex than what you just described. But I said, the difference in our model being Clean Eats is we have 5 revenue streams. And the way that we kind of try to teach new people is you got to treat these like almost 5 micro businesses in one. It's not easy. And there's a ton of moving parts to each one, which is what makes it great. But it's also what makes it so much more challenging to operate than like a Subway or a Jersey Mike's or something that, you're doing one thing. And you got to focus on doing one thing very well. Whereas our owners in our model, they have to focus on 5 things and do 5 things really well to do amazing, numbers and make a lot of money. And that's something that it's always top of mind. How do we make this more efficient? And I think that's what kind of hit us. We were just talking about this with Quinn, kind of post-COVID. This is a challenge that we ran into when construction costs shot up 35+% that I don't think is ever going to go anywhere anytime soon. SBA interest rates shot through the roof, when a lot of our owners, like these guys, when they came in around the same time they did, 2019, right before COVID, I mean, hell, the SBA interest rates were 3% and 4%. Yeah. And so they got amazing deals on these loans, and then they were adjustable rates. Well, shit, what happened after 2021, those rates went up to 10, 11, sometimes 12%. That'll crush a business like us. Totally. It'll just crush it.
Limit. Yeah.
And so then on top of that, food costs, like what we are actually paying for the food, we can't control that. We can to a degree. We can go source it from different places, which Yvonne and Brent are always doing.
Always power, doing. Yeah.
But it's hard to do that when you're trying to focus on quality of ingredients. Like, could we go buy cheap beef? Absolutely. But it goes against our core values. And so we're kind of walking that fine line. But my answer was like, it's like 5 and 6 fold, man. There's a million complexities. So it's like, I think this is what keeps me up at night, every night.
Yeah.
How do we take the model that we have by not sacrificing it and make it more efficient every day?
Yeah. And that's
I don't know if there's one answer for it.
No, that's why they pay you the big bucks, though. That's on your plate, and we're here to help and try to figure that out and try things. But you have the experience and see the whole picture, right? And I think I think there's solutions out there. It's just testing them and figuring them out and trying to continue.
But going back to what we were talking about, though, I think that's the value in having a good FAC, being willing and open to listening to what is going on out in the field.
Yeah.
And just basically keeping your ear to the ground. That's how you're going to solve it. It's not 20 corporate employees sitting around a conference table saying, well, I think we ought to do this.
Well, it's also, and your FAC, you've got experience across various franchise brands too. I mean, that was actually one of my questions for you is whether it's something, because Clean Eats has a lot of entrepreneurial minded folks who are, you're right, their portfolio is Clean Eats is a part of it, but they have other. So what's your favorite flavor of ice cream, I guess is the question I wanted to know. What advice would you give if there is someone in a franchise that's looking to expand their portfolio beyond the brand that they know? Like, because you had to do it, you had your Orangetheory set up and then you moved into the Clean Eats realm. What processes, what did you look for?
Yeah, so first and foremost, it's the product, whatever that is. Do you believe in it? Do you think it's going to be something that people will want, right? If the product's no good, then first of all, why are they franchising? But second of all, why would I get into it, right? So I start there. And once, with Clean Eats, once I figured that out, it was, all right, where are we going? And who is driving the car? Who's the captain of the ship, right? Because if you don't believe in them, then even if the product's great, I'm concerned about where we're going to be 5 years from now, 10 years from now. So that was the second biggest thing. And like I said, that's what really, for me, was like, Brandon, I think I'm in to do this, meeting you guys down there. And even an extension of you was just the team you had at the time, right? And, so Steve met you guys down there, but met Ben at the time, Fleming, it just, everybody was in. Brand, it was all, people that believed in what you were doing. And then again, the more so than just believing in what you're doing, it was you care about the franchisees. There was one example that came up as we're talking down there where, you had said, Don, that, yeah, so-and-so found a cafe. It was a second gen restaurant, and they had all the furniture there, and we told them, just keep it. Like, we don't need to completely rebrand this. Like, I know you don't have a ton of cash you're sitting on. Don't want you to take out an extra loan. Don't want to put you in that situation. Just keep it. And that's a story that stuck with me, because I'm like, all right, so it's a franchise. We got to do this, but you're willing to work and you care about the success of the people. So that was like the second biggest thing I looked for. And then the third piece of the puzzle for me was just confirming that the franchisees talking on the calls weren't just the unicorns, right? Weren't just the ones that had great success, great stories, and maybe it was a one-off. So that's why they loved it. So it was, how do we talk with more franchisees and see, does the story add up? And that, going back to Orangetheory, that is really the one that solidified that for me, because I didn't meet Orangetheory, the founders. I didn't meet any of the team prior to me signing the first license. I signed the first license. I met somebody in the area. They do area developers, area represent. Oh, I can't talk. Sorry, area reps. So I met her, but she wasn't a corporate person. She had nothing. She just had the rights to the territory. So that didn't really influence me. It was, do the owners all over say the same thing? And that's where it just came back. Like, yes, there's a consistent story here. From Mentor, Columbus, down to Nashville. I would say Nashville was the first store I was in with Will's. I have family down there. I happened to be there. I was like, we got to go check this out. Like, we got to see it. And he, every franchisee that we met with was more than happy to talk. And that's another sign that, you have good franchisees, but the business is headed in the right direction, because they're like, yeah, love to explain it to you. Love to talk about the opportunities to get in. And talking with Will was one thing that led to me saying, all right, let's go down in December to D-Day and see more about this.
One of the things that I notice a lot, and Yvonne and I, every time I see it, if we're like, we have our morning coffee hour and talking about whatever, mm-hmm. And one of the things I happen to notice about you and what you're doing day to day, I don't want to say we laugh. We're not laughing, but it's like respect, kind of a respect chuckle, right? Is you own 6 studios now, and then you're a partner in 4 of ours. That's 10 small businesses. Yeah. And this dude is still in his studios every day coaching.
Yeah. Is like, I will say I'm in the studios every day. I'm not coaching every day. I coach weekly Fridays, but like this week I was coaching on, I forget what day it was, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then I coached extra classes today. I'm in the studios though, and actually that's, I don't know if I was going to say this earlier, but I just think that's such an important piece. Maybe that was like something I've learned about small businesses, is where I was thinking about this, is, you're right. I have 10 businesses, 10 locations, and sure, 6 of them are Orangetheory. They're connected. 4 are Clean Eats. They're connected, but they're all their own business, and they all have their own team, and they all have their own customers. So being in there and seeing what's going on. So for Orangetheory, it's taking classes and going in and just checking in. If I'm driving, by or something, I'll pop in, just say, hey, how you doing? And talk whoever's working the front desk. I think knowing my team is super important. And with Clean Eats, that's probably like one of, outside of just being a sounding board for Brandon, that's one of my biggest things I try to do is be the one that can focus on just the team and getting to know them and hearing them out and seeing what their goals are and how we can help, get there, and then eating the food. I will say I am a very picky eater, and I eat the same thing 99 times out of 100 almost. Buffalo chicken wrap, dirty peanut. They know my order at our cafes, and I don't even have to put it in. But did it come out the way I want it, right? So quality control, so to speak. But yeah, I mean, the team and knowing, that's one thing we've always said from the very beginning with Orangetheory was, I know not everybody's going to be with Orangetheory forever. I know everybody's not going to be with Clean Eatz forever. But my goal is that if you're committing to me and being a part of my team, by the time you leave, I'm committing to you that you're going to be better, and that I'm going to try to help you in whatever that next step is. And that's what I've tried to do, and it's worked out for a lot of our staff who have just like poured into us and appreciate their jobs and what they do, and so grateful for all of them. And then I try to reciprocate that as they're headed out the door.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
I want to talk about growth and scaling, kind of the mindset behind it. Is there anything particular that you do to kind of balance time, energy, and leadership skills all at the same time across multiple businesses in two different brands? So like, do you follow a certain playbook for yourself in doing that? Or is it just kind of day by day, kind of taking it one bite at a time?
Yeah. I want to follow a playbook. I have in the past of a scheduling. This is what it looks like, and this is where I'm going to be, and things I'm focusing on. The struggle I have right now is there is so much behind the scenes stuff that has to get done, right? And whether it's paying bills, insurance, taxes, just planning, marketing, all these things, right? So I'm getting pulled out of the businesses more than I want. So the answer is that I have good people. And, on the Clean Eatz side, Brandon takes all of the operations, like he's the one running that. And then we have some really good GMs and people who have stepped up to help out at multiple locations and things like that. On my Orangetheory side, I have two people that are essentially doing what I used to do. I've split it up into one's trying to grow the studios and get in the community and build partnerships and do that. And the other is operations and just making sure we're operating with excellence. So I don't even remember the exact original question, but as far as like a playbook, it's find the right people. And that's if I can find the right people, put them in the right spot, it makes my job way easier, and I can, shake babies, and I'm just kidding. You can shake hands and kiss babies.
Yeah. You do the other way. Shake babies, kiss hands. That works.
Yeah. Yep.
What would you say is kind of the best way that you figured out how to do it? I have my own way of doing it, but how do you kind of stay in touch with, we around Clean Eatz, we're really big on the why. Why are you here? Why did you do this? What is your why? How do you stay aligned with that? Because it's very easy, especially in our world, especially in our industry, keep pointing that out. But food is hard, man, especially right now. It's very difficult. Our industry is getting black eyes every day, and it's slowly turning around, but it's tough right now. So when you get like that, how do you stay aligned with that?
Truthfully, I would say for me, it's my faith. I have a strong faith, in Jesus and God, and I'm just now, I would say, in the last year, like really trying to speak about that. So I'm glad I can bring that up on this platform. But I think I've always had the faith. It's not outward. So like you asked Stephanie, and she's like, how do you not freak out about this? How do you not? And at the end of the day, I have a faith that everything's going to work out, and that things with, business and in the long scheme of things, it's not that big a deal. Right. So I have that. But then I also, to answer your question in a more, tangible earthly way, I would say I go back to what I hear and from my members at Orangetheory, from my customers at Clean Eats. That is really the thing that's like, okay, I got to keep going because I know I'm making a difference for this person. I know I changed that person's life. And, that was something cool that, I got into Orangetheory just because I thought it'd be a cool side business. I thought Stephanie could do that. It'd be good to help save some money up, raise, and maybe sell at some point. But then I started coaching, when we opened our second one, and I started seeing it more, and people, crying when they finished the workout that they didn't think they could do, and just saying, man, when I came in here 6 months ago, I could barely walk on the treadmill the whole time, and now I just ran a 10-minute mile, right? And then I see the same thing at Clean Eats, and when we change lives, the winners of that, their stories, what they did. I mean, it's just that's the thing that's like, well, today sucks. I don't really see the way out, and how we're going to get there. I know we can, but if I have customers that I'm changing their life, I'm making that kind of impact where they're brought to tears. They don't even know me maybe at Clean Eats, and they're like, thank you so much for opening this and being here. That's why you keep doing it. And, they're going to, if you can get one, then there's no reason you can't do that for 100 people. You can't do that for 1,000. So you just got to keep grinding. And I think that's something too from a lot of the Clean Eats franchisees in particular, is there's this grit of we're just going to keep grinding when it's tough, and we're going to figure it out. And, we've heard what can be done, or we've seen what can be done. Maybe we're down right now, just like a lot of industries are, but if we keep doing the right things, it'll pay off. It'll all work out in the end.
One of my questions, Chase, was, and I'm surprised you didn't say it actually when you were figuring out what other franchises to get into your portfolio and then ending up Clean Eats. Was it just a coincidence? I mean, you have such a nice complementary portfolio of health and wellness. So you've got the fitness side with Orangetheory, the nutrition side, and advice side, quite frankly, because there's an education brand as well with Clean Eats. Was that intentional, or is that just like, no, it's just where my heart's at? I want to help people. Like, talk a little bit about how you built this cross-pollination between two brands that just go well together.
Yeah, and really, I kind of just mentioned like the Orangetheory thing was because the stories added up, right? It was going to be a business that if I got into that and we did what these other owners were doing, I was going to see some profits, right? Like that's how I got into that. But then once I started coaching, that's where that really came out. As far as getting into Clean Eats because it aligned, that is the main driver. And when Brandon was talking to me, he brought up 4 things, and it was a garage company fixing garage doors. It was a Red Wing shoes. It was a nail salon, were the 3 other ones he was looking at, and then it was Clean Eats. And again, that's where, because I coach literally daily, people are asking me, what should I eat? What do I do, after my workouts? What do I do on days I'm not working out? And my answer to them back then was try to eat real foods. Let's just start there. Like, let's just try to eat real foods. And I'm not nutritionally certified. I probably should be. I need to do that, but I don't have any nutritional certification. But I know enough, and I've actually learned a lot since joining Clean Eats, quite a bit, from the team there, but also was it First Form, when they were coming in and breaking some stuff down for us. So I've used that information quite a bit. But when so I used to tell them eat real foods, and then if you're trying to lose weight, let's get the calories down, but don't lose the protein. Like that's basically what I would say. And if you're trying to gain muscle, eat more protein. Like that's what I was telling people. And now that all pretty much holds true. But now I have this tool of Clean Eats that is so complementary, because I see somebody who, let's take our average member, and our average member when they start is somebody who's not currently in a good routine, right? Like maybe they have a Planet Fitness membership, and maybe they go once or twice a month, but they're not in a good routine. So typically they have some weight to lose. And I can get that person now, if I can get them doing Orangetheory 4 times a week, within 2 months, depending on the person, but they're gonna lose 10 to 20 pounds. If they have that weight to lose, right? If their goal is to lose 50 pounds, they're going to lose 10 to 20 in the first 8 weeks. If I can get them doing clean eats, that becomes 15 to 20 on the low side, up to 30 plus very easily, because nobody realizes that they're eating crap or they're eating so much. It's amazing to me. And that's one of the things I think we do great. We have great ingredients at Clean Eats, right? But it's portion control too. Like that is one of the biggest things. And because it's macro balanced, they're getting enough protein, they're feeling full, everything's right. But I'll tell people all the time who ask, they're going to say, or they'll say, what should I eat? And I'm like, well, what are you eating now? I'm like, I eat pretty good. I eat every now and then I eat out. I'm like, okay, do me a favor. For a week, write down everything you eat. I don't care if it's a mint. I don't care if it's a steak. I don't care what it is. Write it down. They'll come back after a week. They're like, oh, man. So I forgot about all these chips and cookies that I snack on.
Snacks. Yeah.
And I'm like, see? All right, let's figure this out. Let's get your meals better so that you're full and you don't need the snack. Or let's replace some of those snacks with these better snacks. So, back to your original question. Once I really felt the difference we were making just with Orangetheory, I saw this as soon as Brand said Clean Eats and what it was. I was like, man, that I align with that. That is something that interests me. And that's where he goes, well, maybe we could partner on it. Who knows? And, here we are almost 4 cafes later and still going strong.
Awesome.
I have a very similar answer to kind of reconnecting with that why. And I've gotten in a better habit recently of doing it just because it's always top of mind now. And it's just picking up the phone and calling random owners. And it sounds so stupid simple, but the impact that has on my mental fortitude every day, because I could very easily just go into a state of depression if I just sat in the office all day and looked at analytics and, was just focused on all the things that we need to work on and fix and not focus on any of the positive. And so, even the ones that I call that I think are struggling, which is the reason I'm calling them, like, hey, how are you doing mentally? Like, do you need anything from me? Is there anything I can do to help you? Sometimes I'll get a negative answer, but most of the time, I can honestly say 99% of the time, they're positive as all get out. And I'm like, This is amazing to me. Like, if I was in their shoes, I'd be wanting to swan dive off a bridge somewhere. You know what I mean? Relatively
speaking. What are you talking
but,
about? Throw some names out.
I'm not going to do
details now.
But that's what kind of keeps me right now. It's what keeps me going. Is just being able to pick up the phone and call these people. And even though I know that they could be doing better and there's things that they could be working on and coaching them through that, but just hearing their positivity, that they haven't gave up. And like Quinn just said in our last episode, they haven't rang the bell yet. They haven't given up. They're still in the fight.
Is that why you called me like 5 times last night? I'm Dawn's torch. This guy should be swan diving off a bridge.
Well, actually, I brought up how important the team is, as you both know, but that's a huge part of my why. So when we went from 3 studios to growing to 5 and 6, or 4 and 5, and then buying more licenses, the biggest driver there is I have a lot of people on my team that are great, that care a lot, that have a long career ahead of them, that are reaching a ceiling, right? Within our business, they're reaching a ceiling, and you can certainly stay a studio manager or a GM at a Clean Eats, for a very long time. But for Orangetheory in particular, I really try to find the people that have that growth mindset, right? And want to develop and want the training. So the downside of that is they reach a spot where, like, I want to keep going. And I ran out of spaces, right? I only have so much payroll that I can afford. So it became, all right, we need to open more, grow this business so that I can get more opportunity. And at the end of the day, hearing from members and customers is amazing, but the responsibility I feel as an owner, as you feel as the founder of Clean Eats, I'm sure yours is amplified even more because of how much the investments all the owners are making. But the responsibility I feel to my team and making sure we figure this out so that they have a job and they have a future. That's a huge part of it. And that's also something where, again, I just appreciate the hell out of what you guys do, because I know it keeps you up at night, and I know you put a lot of effort behind it. And it shows, and that's why I think you have so many people supporting, this brand and trying their hardest.
I asked Steve this question on an episode we recorded earlier, and because you're so familiar with it, I'm going to ask you the same one. What is one thing, just I'll call it franchise industry as a whole, what is one thing you'd like to see change? Industry-wide.
I don't really care about the industry. I care about the 2 franchises I'm in, but industry-wide, I think.
Well, it correlates, like the practice itself.
Yeah, so I think the change is what I see with Orangetheory, what I see with Clean Eats. You and Yvonne are so accessible that and open and want to get to know us. I think that's one of the reasons, like I just was saying, you have so many people who are bought in and want to, keep trying and keep pushing and figure it out. You guys stayed what year is that? 21 or 22? I don't know. We were at one cafe. You stayed at my house, and that's not something that I would do with anybody on Orangetheory. And I have a great relationship with the people who've been around at Orangetheory for a long time. So not dogging that at all. They were bigger when we got in, but the founders of Orangetheory, you guys are still engaged with it. And I think as soon as you have, I don't know, I don't know how many brands are out there. I know that you talk about making it to 100 locations, right? Not many brands. What's it, like 5% or something? Yeah, that do that. So like, this is not about them probably, but I think there's so many people who start a business that does really well, and it's their baby, but as soon as they see the dollar signs of what could happen, they find somebody to, all right, let's start, slinging franchises, and then they're just not in it anymore because they made their money. And I think so to answer your question, I think that's the biggest thing I'd like to see, and that would get me into another brand is, are the original people still there? The founders, are they still, captaining the ship, or have they just completely stepped back and don't really care about the success? And I think to some level you would always care because you created it, but does it matter to you? Does it financially matter to you? I think is a big piece.
Founder loyalty.
Yeah. Well, man, I got one more question before we wrap it up. We do this at the end of every episode with guests. I need a Chase Whitehead hot take.
A hot take. So, I just found out what a hot take was from my team like 6 months ago. We're sitting around doing an icebreaker, and they're like, let's do hot takes. I'm like, what the hell does that mean? But I got it now. A hot take. Man, I should have been prepared for this. I'm not really that prepared. This isn't a hot take. This is just a pickiness of me. White and creamy things are disgusting to eat.
I don't even know where to go with this one.
Man, that was random.
No one.
No, so
I was expecting that.
I know that's a bad one, but that's like, so anytime, I think it was actually at D-Day, I was down there, and maybe it was one of the cauliflower pizzas, I don't know, something that you guys had for us to eat. So I think Yvonne, I want to say, was like, here, try this. I was like, Yvonne, oh gosh, I just met you, but I am not going to like that. And, that's my thing. That's not really a hot take. That's just
not even ranch, like hot wings and ranch.
Ranch, mayo, sour cream.
Wow.
It's that white pasta.
It's a sight and
sauce.
texture thing for you. It's just.
Yeah.
The 12-year-old in me is going to ask why, but I don't know if I want the answer.
What's
put a rating on this one.
Do you give a hot take every interview, or do you have a hot take right now?
Do I have one?
Yeah.
If I'm picking one off the top of my head, I'll go back to the change in the franchise space, and I'll have to look at the drop date. Hopefully this drops after convention because I don't want to spoil it. Something that, we're going to talk about really, really heavy at our national convention, which I think is why Yvonne and I have been more than years in the past so adamant on making sure that everybody is at this one, is because there's going to be a philosophy switch that gets flipped on at that convention. And it's going to start with that franchisee-franchisor relationship and the importance of the direction that we're going and how we need to change it. And one of our speakers is Kevin, who's our new development guy. I've listened and seen and heard this presentation probably 4 or 5 times now in 9 months. And I swear every time I hear it, it just clicks something different in my brain, something that I never really thought about the time before I heard it. And I'm just so anxious for our owners to hear it. Not as like a, aha, gotcha, or like, yeah, I told you type way. What I'm really hoping that comes out of it is, okay, guys, like we are, not that we've never been completely, but now we have a common objective, a common goal.
Yeah.
And this whole thing, some of these things that have been rubs here in the past, we need to set these aside because we're forgetting about what is really important with our business model. And it's the people that walk through the front door. Like we're arguing over minuscule things over here, and this person over here is left out in the dark. We're forgetting about these people right here. So, and I think that there's just a million different franchise brands. Like I'm on Kevin. Kevin is a great dude. You'll meet him at convention if you're there. He's been in franchising for 35 plus years. Doesn't even have a LinkedIn profile. Doesn't go to conventions. Doesn't go to trade shows. It's just because the industry as a whole has become a sales-based organization. And his biggest thing is, he looked at me one of the first times I met him and he said, how many franchise agreements or FDDs have you read? And I'm like, hundreds. Outside of ours, hundreds.
Yeah.
And he goes, can you tell me one time in any time that you've read one where the word sale has ever been in one? And I'm like, son of a bitch, no, I haven't. And he goes, that's the problem. He goes, that's the problem with franchising right now, is because brands are selling a perspective that is not reality. That's my hot take.
Yeah. I think you called me maybe after the first time you saw him do that presentation. It was, I don't know, 4 or 5 months ago. Maybe.
I was blown away, man.
Yeah.
Blown away.
And you're like, you text me first. You're like, I got to tell you about this because I responded to something. But no, when I heard that, I agree. I think shifting that mindset and what we're all trying to do. And again, it's not a you versus me thing. It's a all of us win if we individually and both sides win. So yeah, excited to roll that out and see how it all plays out, and really excited for the future of this brand, the future of Orangetheory. Also, there's a lot of cool things happening. Actually, I was going to mention the pivot. I think you call it the year of the pivot. Maybe you're talking with Missy, or I think is what it was, but I see that happening now, and that just excites me because still I believe so much in the product, and it's a good product. I get people that every day will Instagram message me and say, dude, did you try this one? It's fire or whatever. And I'm like, no, it has white creamy sauce. I don't like that.
Nice, bringing it back.
Yeah,
The white creamy sauce.
But I believe in that so much that once we, as you continue to tweak these things and just get behind it, as long as the mission stays the same, we're headed the right direction. Yeah, there's different ways to get there, and we're gonna have to pivot here and there. But I'm excited for the end of this year, but really Q1, I think we're gonna have a big 26, and it's gonna start with quarter one.
I agree. Well, man, this has been great. I'm going to respect your time. We're pushing an hour here, but I appreciate the time and sharing kind of the interminglings of the two brands that you've been building, and lucky to have you, and I appreciate you.
Yeah, Chase, thanks. Skippy sends his love up north.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys too.
Spread the word.
All right, man. Thank you.
See you, bud.
See ya.